further ado, guys, this is my 1994 Honda NSX. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Wong, and today you're joining me in a video a little bit different from the usual as you'd expect out here on the channel. This is going to be something that's informative and educational because we're going for a deep dive about all the ownership costs of essentially owning a Honda NSX for 6 years. This is going to be something that gives you an idea as to what it's like to own a 90s JDM supercar, something that was completely different, that was out at the time in the 90s. You know, this car competed with the likes of the Ferraris as well as the Skyline GTRs. And so this, guys, is my baby. It is my pride and joy. It is my 1994 JDM Honda NSX, a factory manual example that I've pretty much built from the ground up. It's got 108,000 Ks on the clock, and I go for a full in-depth video and a very one-on-one personal chat with you guys about me revealing this car in a video about 3 weeks ago. And I talked to you guys about everything that I've done to this car, the journey, the process, and pretty much as to why I kept this car a secret for so long. And you'll know as to exactly why everything is coming to light here on the channel. So guys, few key notes to note before we get into this video. I am based here in Melbourne, Australia. Car prices for the NSX is a little bit different compared to the ones over in America and Japan. However, mods, parts, those costs associated with it are more universal, excluding obviously transport costs and logistics. I also do want to mention that nothing that I'm trying to say is being boastful. I just want to make sure that you guys are well aware of all of the costs, and I want to be as transparent as possible. Things do get costly, and I want to make sure that that is apparent to you guys when you're buying a supercar or an NSX or any other Jap car. So guys, let's get straight into it. First off, let's start off with the car prices. Now, I picked up this NSX in 2016 from a gentleman that wanted to sell the car because he purchased a house, and as a result I was able to pick it up for a very fair price considering the condition, the kilometers. This car has 105,000 Ks when I picked it up 6 years ago, and I purchased it for 62,000 Australian dollars. That was the cost of the car, nothing else on top of that. Obviously there was transport fees, logistics, registration, things of those nature, but for 62,000, this was the cost of the NSX. Today, to pick one up, it's going to be about $100,000 more here in Australia. This is Australian dollars. I just want to let you guys know again, and because of that, it is a little bit more inflated compared to the American market. If you wanted to get one in Japan, also prices are a little bit different. This is a factory manual NSX, so honestly, to pick one up here in Australia, similar case, similar condition, probably around the 160 mark today. If you do get an automatic, it's about 10–20% cheaper. A manual conversion today is about 20 to 30 grand for just the parts and the labor. Really, it's a lot of money, and to get things done right, it is a little bit costly. A factory manual will always be worth a little bit more. I really wanted a car that was different. I didn't want the standard red, although very iconic. It was just a little bit simple, and black and silver was just not the car that I wanted to go for. I wanted something really, really unique, and I found Brooklyn's green pearl. This color is stunning because of the pearl. You see it a mile away and you think, whoa, what car is that? It looks like some sort of Ferrari, and not your standard Ferrari color either. So I really like the fact that it's two-tone, black roof, green at the bottom. Just a really stunning car, and because it's got black interior, it really ticks all my boxes. So aside from the cost for buying this NSX, there was insurance costs, there was registration costs, there was transportation costs, there was roadworthy costs just to get this car legal and in my name. It brought me to a grand total of 65,900 for this car. Now, when I got this car here in Melbourne, there were a few things that I wanted to attend to, and that was most notably the body kit. I really liked the OEM look in the 90s. However, I really wanted to complement the OEM style even further, and so I opted to go for a downforce kit. They're very well known in America for creating really good body parts, and so I picked up a bunch of parts from them over in America. Shipping them here to Australia was a little bit costly, and then getting the parts painted, it did end up being a pretty penny, but I think the styling and the look of the car now really suits what I like in a car in an OEM Plus style. So I got the Downforce 2002 side skirts that came on the NA2, the facelifted NSX with the door panels to match. They were $2,037 painted. I also got the 2002 rear valance for the car from Downforce, and that was $1,652. I also picked up a carbon fiber NSX-R Downforce wing. I also got a Wings West front lip. It's a polyurethane lip, and I really like this lip over any other lip, and that was $737 painted. This car actually came with a set of Volk Racing forged RE30 wheels in OG bronze, and I really like the look of this kit. That was about it. I enjoyed driving the car so much. I did the first service at my friends over at Seeker Motorsport. Ed, you may have seen him on the channel. I took this car to him those years ago, and still today, Ed is my mechanic. He's been looking after this car since then, and he serviced my car for $300. After we did the styling and the servicing for the car when I first picked it up, I really fell in love with how the car looked. I drove it quite a fair bit, I'd say. At the time, I drove 2,000 kilometers in it, and it was really, really fun to drive. However, I go over it again in my other video. It wasn't that inspiring, and I really wanted to chase an NSXR style, something that was more raw and visceral. And so that was kind of like the end goal for the NSX moving forward. And there wasn't anything wrong with it. So, you know, I do follow that motto of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I continued driving the car, and it was really, really good. There was nothing particularly wrong about it because the owner had done a major service at 90,000 Ks. And then suddenly I was driving it late at night. I was around the corner from home, very luckily. I was just potting around town, and then the gearbox wouldn't engage first gear. I was just driving the car very normally, and then it was just jammed. I couldn't go into first gear, guys. I didn't know what went wrong, so I called my mechanic, and he told me, hey, look, you know, there's probably something wrong with your gearbox. Just get it back to your place, and you can tow it to my workshop tomorrow. And so I did that, and then I brought the car to my mechanic, and he said, you've got a pretty big issue on your hands. Your gearbox is probably broken. Your synchros are probably messed up. So then came the process of modifying this car and getting it to the extent that was kind of in plans for the future, but I ended up doing there and then. So in 2017, I went on this massive route to rebuild this car in a way that really suited my preference. So from there, I ordered a bunch of parts, and it's very, very long and extensive. The first thing that I needed to address was obviously the gearbox. We went along and did that gearbox rebuild in conjunction with Neat Gearboxes, and that cost me $2,821. We did everything to make sure the OEM NSX gearbox is brand new again in this car. So it's fresh, it's ready to go. And I thought, look, you know what? The gearbox is out, the engine is out, the whole subframe is out in the NSX. Let's give it another major service. Doing a major service on this car is a hefty procedure, and it's long and tiresome because you do need to drop the entire engine, and that requires quite a bit of work. So we ordered a full new set of OEM Honda seals, everything that it needed I got on this car, including a timing belt and a water pump, including labor. That was a total of $2,499. It was a lot of money to pay, in my honest opinion. In accordance to that, one of the issues that I had with the NSX, for me personally, was the fact that when driving the manual transmission, it had quite a heavy flywheel, and it wasn't that rev happy. So when you try to do a rev match or a heel and toe, it was a little bit difficult to do so because the revs just don't jump that high. I know in the NSX-R, it is a little bit more rev happy, and comparatively at the time, having a DC2R, it just didn't feel as lively of a sports car that I envisioned in my mind. I go through all of this information with you guys in the NSX video of me revealing it and talking about the driving experience of that car. And so throughout all of this, I really wanted to spruce up the NSX to make it a little bit more of a driver's car. It was more of a daily drive, super comfortable supercar. And that's what it was for me, and obviously the market, but I wanted something that was a little bit more dialed up to 11. So I wanted to go down the route of getting a lightened flywheel. So I picked up an ATS Super Carbon Clutch, obviously a Japanese name. What it meant was that it had a carbon lightweight flywheel clutch, and that was $2,750 fitted into the car. It really spruced up the driving and just the way that the car revved. It was so much more fun. In addition to that, I also did add an ATS Carbon 1.5 way LSD with a 4.4 final drive that was exactly the spec of the NSX-R ratios, and that was 4.44, and it was so much more fun to drive, guys. It completely changed the way that this car drove. It was the best money that I had ever spent on the NSX, and this is even before I had done everything else on the car. You know, it was sitting at Ed's workshop for the better part of 3 months, and then I thought, hey, you know what? Whilst the car is sitting there, let's just go down this slippery slope and spend more and more and more money on your pride and joy, as you would naturally. And so we picked up a set of Volk Racing TE37 SLs. And at the time, obviously prices were a lot less, and I picked it up for $3,200. I also got a set of Dunlop Star Spec Z2 tires, and they were $1,200 fitted. And then from there, we also got a set of CT Engineering's front camber bushings. So the front camber bushings were $390, and that just gave it a little bit extra camber in order to fit the wheels. I know they do poke a little bit, but guys, I don't want this car to be slammed. I do want to drive it, but I do kind of like a little bit of that aggressive look. And I think in the end, it kind of complements the aggression and the style of this car. I did go down the route of ordering a very, very rare part. It was an ARC, an ARC titanium catback muffler exhaust, and that was $2,632. A lot of money for that titanium catback exhaust, but guys, it sounds the absolute dream when you're on this car. In accordance to that, guys, I also did get a set of StopTech 4-piston BBK kit all round, and that StopTech kit was insanely expensive, but I thought, let's just improve this car in every single way. I was already at the wheels, I was already doing the muffler, so I thought, you know what, let's go the next step. The car did come with a set of BCBR Racing coilovers. Didn't really like them because of my past experiences with them, so I went down the route of going for a KW Club Sport set of coilovers. The KW Club Sport suspension struts and the KW plates were $4,600. It was a lot of money to pay, but it really improved the driving and the handling. It was so, so good. Naturally, we went down the route of getting a set of Recaros as well. The Recaro pole position in leather, the 2 bucket seats. Obviously, you're gonna need to get a set of rails. So I got a set of SOS sliding seat rails. SOS is very famous over in America for creating NSX parts. I also went down the route of getting a Momo steering wheel. I didn't want to get the NSX-R steering wheel because it wasn't any different to the Momo Corsa that I got. Going back in time, I really wish that I picked up the NSX-R actual genuine wheel, because the Corsa 350mm wheel was $200 only, and the NSX-R horn button was also $200. I also forgot to mention that I got a Works Bell NSX Boss kit, and that was $500 on top of that. So at this point, the car was ready to go. I really, really enjoyed driving it. At that point, I had lowered it. I had put it in pretty much a style and look that made it a little bit more difficult to drive because it was so low. And since then, I was actually only able to drive the car another 1,000 kilometers, but every single year I serviced this car and I made sure that the car was well looked after to a T. So I brought it back to Ed about 5 more times to do my minor services. I got a car alignment at Reservoir Tire Power, and that was $220. And guys, in total, I only put on about 3,000 kilometers on this car. Yeah, it's probably not what you thought I had done on the NSX in terms of me driving it and loving it. It just got to the point where I went from loving driving the car to enjoying just looking at it, because during this time, NSX car prices, things just started to get a little bit wacky. Car prices just went a little bit crazy. And honestly, I enjoyed looking at the car more than driving it. And so I did a full detail from my mate over at Namicon. Way back in the day, Nam did a killer job, and that was $500. During this whole period as well, I just want to let you guys know that car prices started to creep up. And obviously COVID had then happened. And then things got out of hand completely, and they soared to what it is now. I really enjoyed driving the car before because it was stock, it was easy to drive, and then going down the route, the slippery slope of modifying it, making sure that it looks, sits, drives right. I then didn't really see the appeal anymore. Not because it wasn't fun to drive, it was even more fun to drive in a way that it was everything that I had imagined, but I reached a point in time where I was honestly 10 out of 10 satisfied with this car. And it also became quite apparent that it would be extremely difficult for me to replace in the event of an accident. Being so low down, cars, trucks aren't even able to see the car in their side mirrors. So guys, it became more of a Mona Lisa and a garage queen than a car that I actually wanted to drive. My NSX was just my baby. I just wanted to make sure that it was safe, protected. I really did enjoy this car. For me, it was something that I drove to the meets, drove home, drove to the mechanics, drove back, had the Sunday morning run that I would drive around town, around the beach, park it up again. I do live in the city, and as a result, it was a little bit hard for me to get many Ks. And since then, I haven't even found a need to modify this car or to do anything with it. So it is a little bit of a funny ownership that I've had with the car, initially purchasing it for $62,000, going down the slippery slope and building your pride and joy, your dream car, finding it and then owning it for so long. I really spent quite a bit of money to it, but now, till this day, I'm still super happy with it, and I'm really proud of everything that I had achieved in this car. And it's kind of sad because, guys, I'm selling my NSX. So yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed this informative video about my NSX. For those of you that wanted to know a little bit more about the car, I hope that this gives you a bit more of an insight into NSX ownership. But guys, it is a 30-year-old car, and there are going to be things that do start to dwindle and break. There are ABS issues, there are window regulator issues, there are water pump issues, there are leaking issues. I didn't really have any of those things, and I'm very, very fortunate that it was just the gearbox rebuild. And as a result, guys, NSX ownership for me has been a joy, and I've loved every single bit of it for the past 6 years. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video about the ownership costs and what it's like to own the Honda NSX, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you thought ownership costs were more or less, let me know in the comments below, and what your ownership costs are like for your NSX as well. And if you guys have enjoyed the content and you want to see more of my personal builds as well as car reviews that are coming again very soon in the future, consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.